The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, I have the responsibility of coordinating the oversight of how federal programs and departments are managed by the Liberal government. And every day brings more evidence that this NDP Liberal Prime Minister just isn't up to the job. Since my appointment as chair 2 years ago, I have to admit that not a month has gone by where the committee does not examine evidence from Canada's Auditor General that demonstrates ongoing mismanagement of taxpayer dollars and the abdication of any responsibility by Liberal ministers to improve performance or outcomes. I can report that even the Auditor General is becoming exasperated by a government that promises to do better when little changes report after report. It's outrageous that taxpayers are forced to bankroll this Liberal government's incompetence. The waste we discover is not an accident. It is the best the Liberals can do. And we believe on this side of the House that Canadians deserve better. Never has the federal government spent so much to achieve so little as these Liberals. And after 8 years, Canadians know that this Prime Minister isn't worth the cost, the crime, or the corruption and needs to be replaced. Conservatives, in contrast, will axe the tax, build the home, fix the budgets, and stop the crime. Now, Liberals call this a meaningless slogan, but it's our mission statement for a principled and accountable, common-sense Conservative government. Each point speaks to a promise that will reverse the decline this Liberal government has brought to Canada, which has left millions of Canadians worried and worse off, and sometimes desperately so. Today, the House of Commons is considering 3 important points raised by the member for Carleton concerning government spending and oversight. The Leader of the Official Opposition, along with other Conservative members on this side of the Commons, want to know, how much did the Liberal government spend on the ArriveCAN boondoggle? Will responsible ministers be held accountable for the budget failures? And will the millions of wasted and unearned tax dollars be returned to the Treasury? The Auditor General reported that ArriveCAN was originally projected to cost $80,000, but ballooned to at least $60 million. That's 750 times the original price. And the key word from the auditor here is at least, because as Ms. Hogan said, our Auditor General, in her value for money audit, it is, quote, impossible to determine the actual cost of the application, end quote. The auditor added, so every MP and taxpayer to understand the severity of the mismanagement and waste. Quote, this is probably some of the worst financial record keeping that I've seen. Overall, this audit shows a glaring disregard for basic management and contracting practices throughout ArriveCAN's development and implementation, end quote. Lacking basic management, no proper record keeping, and no ministerial or department oversight. In other words, it's a bloody financial train wreck. So that's investigation number 1 from the federal government's own auditor. The second investigation by the procurement ombudsman revealed that a staggering 76% of ArriveCAN contracts, the contractor did not perform any work. And I'll note that ombudsman is at the Public Accounts Committee today, this afternoon, and we look forward to hearing from those findings and how taxpayers did not receive value for money. But apparently, some contractors received money for no work. That a 2-person company, GC Strategies, that did no IT work, was the only supplier in North America that could win some big government contracts because of bid rigging. Again, this is from the ombudsman. Back to the auditor, who reported, quote, we found that GC Strategy was involved in the development of the requirements that the Canada Board of Service Agency ultimately included in the request for proposal, end quote. Now this finding has not actually been addressed enough. What the auditor is saying here is that GC Strategies was at the table when departmental officials were setting up the contract terms, meaning they had not only the inside advantage, they wrote the rules. GC Strategies is a two-person consulting firm that does no IT work. It bids on federal government contracting schemes and then outsources the work to others. When GC successfully wins a bid, all they do is subcontract out the work to other contractors. There is little to no value in these arrangements, except for the owners, because the bidder charges and pockets a fat commission up to 30%. Since 2015, this two-person consulting firm has collected over $250 million from taxpayers, according to reports by the newspaper La Presse. In 2022, consultants like GC Strategies were awarded $17.7 billion in contracts, while ordinary Canadians are struggling to pay for groceries and heat their homes. Now, a third investigation has begun by the Information Commissioner into ArriveCAN. This one focuses on allegations of deleted emails by federal officials responsible for overseeing the ArriveCAN program. This is a concern the Auditor General has not dismissed and one that needs to be investigated. And then to wrap all this up, this taxpayer-funded mess, the RCMP is investigating it all. And I believe evidence was heard at the Public Accounts Committee indicating that the police should expand their scope after testimony from officials that reinforce that contracts were fraudulently submitted by contractors, work wasn't done at the value that the taxpayer expected, and this needs to be looked at for fraud. So how did the ArriveCAN waste happen? Well, public servants did not follow the rules. A Liberal government that is not able to manage the bureaucracy or protect tax dollars was in place, and consultants swindled the system and in some cases broke the law. And if you listen to testimony from public servants who appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, there's a trend of excuses. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. We heard public servants did not sign off on these contracts. It was their predecessors who have either been moved to another department or are now retired, or they just didn't know. No deputy minister has been fired, no minister held accountable, yet bonuses were paid. That's bonuses for outsourcing work that the public service was responsible for doing in-house. 3 years ago, Conservatives called on the Prime Minister to end their ArriveCAN. Instead of listening to common sense, these Liberals went ahead and wasted tens of millions of dollars. In the Auditor General's report, it clearly shows that the majority of spending on ArriveCAN happened after the 2021 election. And the truth is, this is a scandal that could only happen under the Liberal government. For those of you that have been around this place long enough, or in many cases even longer, ArriveCAN combines the worst of two previous Liberal scandals, ad scam and their long gun registry. In ad scam, tax money paid to Liberal consultants was paid to Liberal consultants without records for little or no work. Does that sound familiar? Nearly $1.2 billion in sponsorship and advertising contracts were received by government outsiders through sole source contracts. And taxpayers remember when Auditor General Sheila Fraser was unable to calculate the long gun registry price tag because expenditures were not saved by the government. The filing cabinet was empty. At the time, she estimated the total cost at over $1 billion. And you'll remember, under a previous Liberal government, that program was supposed to cost $2 million, yet up and away, just like the Arrive scam. In conclusion, I'll go back to the ArriveCAN and the Auditor General. Quote, in our view, flaws in the competitive processes to award further ArriveCAN contracts raise significant concerns that the process did not result in the best value for money, end quote. That's the auditor saying it was a financial train wreck. And it's another failure of this tired, wasteful Liberal government. Who on that side of the House is accountable for this waste? who will be accountable to Canadians? Thank you.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to go back to the question I had asked the member's colleague, and that is for many of my constituents wanting to get a better understanding in terms of what actually is, how does one company, or there's two same people, if I can put it that way, able to get themselves into a position where ultimately they were able to do what they did in a very questionable behavior. It goes all the way back to when they were on the directors for Cordell, where they actually received numerous contracts under the Conservatives. And I'm wondering if he would not agree that on the specific ArriveCAN or that particular company, we actually should be looking at the origins of the company and how it is that it ultimately developed. And to support that, I'm wondering if he would agree that we should be tabling the document that clearly demonstrates the grants that were received by that company at that time.
The Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Next, the member is going to be blaming youth crime on individuals that were born during the Harper era. This is a scandal that is a Liberal scandal. They have had 8 years to reform and manage the public service as they saw fit. And I think that those questions need to be directed to the government. How is it a company under their watch was able to fleece taxpayers by nearly $250 million? That's a question for you. If you can't ask it, voters will get you out of the way.
I'm assuming the Honourable Member wasn't addressing that directly to me, but he should address his questions through me. The Honourable questions et commentaires. L'Honourable.
The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The leader of the Bloc Québécois has been asking for an arm's length public inquiry. And he's been asking for a number of other measures. Now, our colleague is saying that this is a shameless scandal, and he's right. We will vote in favor of the motion. On the other hand, even before the AG report, the Conservatives are saying that they knew that there was an amount in the 2021-22 budget that was voted on in March 2022. If they knew that that sum was problematic, why didn't they ask for a separate vote on that amount? Why didn't they oppose that? Why didn't they vote on it? Why did they vote on it all together?
Member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mais encore une fois,
Well, Madam Speaker, the Conservative leader mentioned that the NDP and the Bloc voted with the federal government to support ArriveCAN. Yes, it's true.
Debates. Alors, je demande aux gens.
No cross debate. I would wait for those who have asked the question to wait. If they want to ask another question at the appropriate time, they can. But I would ask them to give the Honourable Member time to answer the question. We won't get into debate back and forth like this. The Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest. Thank you, Madam Speaker. For 3 years, I myself have been saying we need to stop ArriveCAN. But ultimately, it cost a great deal. It's not up to me to explain Bloc or NDP votes. We will ask why they voted to support the program.
And comments. The Honourable Member for Esquimalt-Saanich-Sooke. A brief question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My question to the member is, as the Chair of the Public Accounts Committee, does this committee have any plans to investigate accountability for the Phoenix Pay system, which was planned by the Conservatives, cost $310 million, and now has cost more than $2.6 billion, and has more than 200,000 public servants still facing problems with their pay? Is the committee going to be doing any investigation to accountability for that Conservative boondoggle?
The Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest has 50 seconds to respond.
very good. Well, that's up to the committee members, and if my honourable colleague would like to urge his member to seek support to do that, that's something we can consider. Generally, our committee follows the rules, the reports from the Auditor General. And so this is something that I wouldn't decide on my own. If the Auditor General certainly studies it, it's something we will take up. But again, today is about the ArriveCAN, the support the NDP has given that program, the great waste to taxpayers, and a program that hasn't worked.